Bradley V8. Those who race them believe there is no greater thrill than sampling side-by-side competition on a super speedway. The origins of the sport may be good old US of A, but in AUSCAR racing the combatants are proudly Australian, Ford and Commodore. Today the curtain comes up on a new season at Melbourne's Calder Park Thunderdome, and this is the man they have to beat, Brad Jones, 3 times national champion and touring car regular. In the NASCAR class, George Elliott opens the defence of his title against the strongest lineup of talent in many years. 7 Network welcomes you to Melbourne's Shrine of Speed for the opening round of the NASCAR and AUSCAR National Championships. Proudly presented by Castrol. Oils ain't oils. Hello Australia, I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to Calder Park Thunderdome and the opening rounds of the NASCAR and AUSCAR National Championships for season 92-93. The V8 car wars continue here today. And Alan Moffat, it looks like the weather has been kind for the first time in 2 months in Victoria.
Yeah, 2 months, Mike. And believe me, having driven at Daytona a number of times, this is one place you don't want the water running down the bank.
Twin races today for each category. I guess the idea with the weather is try and win the first.
Well, get in and get a good grip of things and get a feel for your car and then slingshot it into the final. That's what you need to do.
Well, of course, this type of competition is a little different to Mount Panorama at Bathurst, where we were last weekend. Of course, the V8s didn't dominate there. The Nissan GTR certainly did. In AUSCAR racing, Brad Jones, and in the NASCAR category, George Elliott holds sway here today. And I guess, Mark Osler, as far as AUSCAR is concerned, Bradley Jones has always been the man to beat here.
He really has been the man to beat. 3 times AUSCAR champion, on pole position once again with the new VP. But keep in mind that John Faulkner is only 1/10 of a second away from Brad. The top 13 covered by less than a second. That is tight.
That's the type of racing we like.
It sure is, and Brad's going to be struggling out there today. This is really bunching up the field.
Well, George Elliott is the pole sitter for the NASCAR Classic here today, and with him at the moment, it's good afternoon to Andy Raymond.
Thanks, Mike. I'm one man who's very happy they didn't have to qualify yesterday as last year's champion, George Elliott. Of course, George, this means that you get to start on the pole.
Probably not the fastest pole we've ever won, but certainly the easiest, Andy.
You're feeling the pressure at all as the defending champion? Do you think of the nerves and the butterflies in the stomach?
Not really. I mean, I'm just taking it, one day at a time. We've got a new sponsor now with Promo Performance Products, and that makes life a lot easier. When you've got someone else out there that's giving you a bit of support.
Section of the huge crowd here at Calder Park Thunderdome today as the NASCARs take to the circuit. George Elliott, pole sitter for the opening heat earlier this afternoon. However, there was plenty of drama. It started when Walter Giles went off the circuit and wound up down on the infield, taking a tyre off the rim and bogging it completely. Giles had been up running in the top 3 practically all day in that Centauri DuPont car. That brought out the yellows, and after they completed their pit stops, it was Ian Thomas of the Gold Coast in car number 23 who was able to spread it out and go on and win the opening heat. That qualified the drivers for heat number 2, and here's how they line up. Thomas off pole position in car number 23 over John Stepanek. 3rd is Alan Grice in the Valvoline Pontiac. 4th place held down by Robin Best of Tasmania, and 5th, number 6, John Laws. Starting out of position number 7, it's Barry Blake of Western Australia. Car number 14 starts out of 7, Neville Lance of Western Australia. 8 is 44, Adam Pay. 9th is 91, Walter Giles on the comeback trail, and Trevor Oliver in the Pontiac starts in car number 86 out of position number 10. That's the lineup for the 50-lapper. And here we have them on the track, probably just a lap away from the pace car cutting them loose for 50 circuits. And certainly the man that's going to be very hard to beat over the distance here today is in fact going to be Alan Grice. Grice in number 09 heads along the back straight. There's Robin Best in car number 11, Ian Thomas 23. The Tropical Developments car number 41, John Stepanek. And here's our DuPont Centauri race cam pilot, and that is Walter Giles. They're starting to close them up now under the pace car. We should get a start this time as they come off the banking of the 4th turn, and here they come in for a start, splitting the field. Giles tried to do it, but down for the start it'll be Ian Thomas to get away from Alan Grice. Down on the inside it's Laws. The outside it's Robin Best of Tasmania as they come beneath our speed camera into turn number 1. Through there safely, working the back straight now and heading down there for the first time. And actually Ian Thomas has got away to a good break. Heads them along the back straight over the John Stepanek car. Third is still Robin Best of Tasmania, or Alan Grice, I should say, running in the second spot off turn number 4, coming down for the completion of 1, and the order unchanged.
Great start by Ian Thomas. Did very strongly in the first heat, actually winning it, which is a great result for him. Loves his NASCAR racing, and he's certainly putting on a great turn of speed here at the opening round of the NASCAR series for 92-93. So field streamed through, thundering V8. 600 horsepower as the NASCAR screamed down into turn 3 on the second lap. And Alan Grice closing in for the kill.
He was unlucky in the earlier heat this afternoon, getting penalized for going down the pit lane when the pit lane wasn't open. It's a bit of a tricky one, how you can get down it if it isn't open, but nevertheless, regulations, and cost him any position he could hope for in the first heat. But look at this now, he's not waiting.
Alan Grice sweeps down the inside. The Dick Midgley Pontiac Grand Prix makes it look easy, pushes Ian Thomas wide in the Buick. Now Alan Grice takes control. Ian Thomas drops back to second place. John Laws in fourth. Robin Best splits them. He's in third position. That's the top 5 with Walter Giles.
Very important to get into the groove in a hurry in a 50-lap race here. If there's very few incidents, 50 laps goes by so quickly, and Grice has certainly got that formula in his mind. He knows, get away from the field, get a nice cushion, back off when you have to.
Yes, he's got it all dialed in. Here's Walter Giles carrying our DuPont Centauri race cam. Comes up on the inside of the Laws Brothers entry, car number 6, trying to ping him before the end of the straight. Now gets him just on the entry to the first turn. And Giles actually was one of the outstanding drivers in the opening heat today. Ran into problems, as we showed you earlier, that touch with another car and finishing up on the infield, but he came storming back through the field. And he looks like he's in good shape here today. The car's certainly very, very strong. Certainly strong in the engine department.
There's George Elliott fighting his way back. He's on the bumper of John Laws as well. Elliott starting off pole position this morning, had some troubles, fighting his way back through the field, slips up to John Laws there onto the bumper of Walter Giles. Keep in mind, there's a compulsory pit stop after 10 laps of this race, and that's going to throw the strategic battle wide open.
Well, it does if you don't have a yellow flag period. That's where it really throws it open. So Grice and the Valvoline, the Frank Midgley car from the United States. Grice hired as the chauffeur of that car. He leads the race over Ian Thomas. Then Robin Best of Tasmania. That's the group we're following at the moment. Best in the number 11 car.
Oh, look at them bunch up here. George Elliott sticks the nose of the Chevy Lumina under Walter Giles' car. So they sweep up under Robin Best, car 11.
Anytime you see that happening, you know the fellow in front is definitely holding you up.
This is the battle. Sorry, Alan, this is the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th.
It's a case of just not getting your slingshot 100%, but he's certainly got the power to do the job. He just needs to line these two up in front of him in the right spot on the track where he can take advantage of getting by safely.
Walter Giles has a look down the inside of Robin Best. Gets very close to the rear bumper. Back on the juice.
He's trying to get him on the inside and nail him before the next turn. But Robin Best has got plenty of power in that number 11 car. He pulls him going down the back straight, so he wasn't able to do anything. And this is frustrating Elliott, who's sitting in behind them trying to get a draft, but probably picking the wrong car.
No, he can't get by 2 of them at once. That'd be far too dicey. But he's got to pick his moment. But old Best was a little loose there. That's not too good for the heartbeat when you feel the rear end of one of these things moving around and the wall for a windscreen wiper.
Robin Best in the Junior Johnson Ford T-Bird. Great believer in Junior Johnson's products. Runs a number of his chassis, likes his engines as well. Spends a lot of time in the United States. Struggling a bit here. Alan Grice straight at the field. Up ahead of him, Ian Thomas. 2 times Australian NASCAR champion Robin Best in 3rd position, coming under a lot of fire from Walter Giles and George Elliott.
Well, Giles keeps poking the nose of that DuPont Centauri car down on the inside. And Elliott just can't get a shot at them because, as you can see here, Best is working the outside, Giles is the inside, and whilst Elliott might be a little quicker than both of them, there's just not enough room to pass. His only shot is on the inside coming off this corner down through the tri-oval.
10 laps down as Alan Grice goes across the tri-oval, so now we're into the position.
There goes Elliott.
We've got a yellow flag lap here. We'll see the boys heading in for their compulsory tyre stop. Meanwhile, they're battling for supremacy.
This was a good move from Elliott down the inside.
Nice and patient, Mike. Yes. He just waited there. He took advantage of it. I think the Tasmanian car, yeah, there he goes again. Just a little bit tentative on the approach to the banks. And George nailed the opportunity and off and running. You can see now what a gap he's put on those two cars.
Here's Giles again in the Buick coming down on the inside of the Tasmania and finally gets him. Maybe Elliott showed him the way to do that the previous lap. And as Mark made mention, it won't be too long before we see them trying to pit, and the pit stops will determine the outcome of this one today.
Well, they're running easy at the moment. I say easy. They're running in a fashion that isn't causing too much danger of a yellow flag coming out. And this is the kind of time to make hay while the sun is shining.
There's the battle for second that we have been following. And that, of course, is Ian Thomas and George Elliott in number 55. Elliott coming along the back straight now, closing. Car seems strong. Moves right up behind Thomas. Very, very close indeed. May pull out of the draft halfway down the straight on the try-over, get him on the inside. He sits in close behind him. Grice is out to probably a 10 car length break over the field at this stage. Here's second and third. Thomas from Cairns in northern Queensland and the Tropic Coast Developments car. And right behind him, George Elliott, who wrapped up the NASCAR championship last year.
Beautifully prepared Oldsmobile Delta, Ian Thomas, 46 years of age. And the Cairns driver has shown a great improvement this year. Ran in ARCA racing in the States. Spends a bit of time in the States and enjoying his racing on both continents. Now here he's got a real battle on his hands as George Elliott.
It's a good way to develop your skills. Go overseas and match it with the best.
And Terry Byers, meanwhile, has moved up to 8th position for the back of the grid after he broke that shock absorber in heat 1. So Byers really on the charge as well. That's a good effort.
Tony Southwell, the first of the cars to pit at the moment. He's in changing outside tyres. But he is the only one that's headed in there at this stage of the race.
Ian Thomas, car 23, the immaculate Oldsmobile Delta. Won the Best Presented Car Award here last season. And there hasn't been any sort of decline in the standard of preparation. This car looks superb.
Well, he's holding Elliott off here at the moment, but I don't know how long he can keep it up. George seems to be pressing him on the banks and just not quite enough room to get himself by, but certainly looking the better of the two cars here just at the moment.
And you'll notice that Walter Giles has been able to pick the pair of them up again. So Giles closes in the DuPont entry again, the Buick.
Alan Grice,
second, third and fourth.
Alan Grice, meanwhile, has opened up the lead to almost 3 seconds, 2.87 last time around. So Grice slowly pegging away, opening up a nice little buffer.
Well, Grice certainly in the box seat to win this one today, but it all depends on the pit stop. They exit turn number 4. They come back onto the start finishing straight. Here's Elliott working and hedging away at the inside here of Ian Thomas as they go down the straight into the next turn.
Oh, yes. They touch.
Yes.
Little kiss of the panels, and Ian Thomas looks like a tyre rubbing there.
Yeah, that was pretty forceful, but I think George had enough of it. He knew he could get by, and just every time he wanted to move into position, the Queensland car made it difficult for him, but now he's got the tyre rubbing, and it'll be making it very nervous for him. That smoke will be coming into the cab, and he'll just be wondering, gee, I don't want to blow out with these walls waiting for me for a catch fence.
And he moves over to cover his ground as Walter Giles seizes on the opportunity. Can see the smoke puffing out of the Oldsmobile. Moves up to try and get third position, but Ian Thomas is going to hang out there as long as he can, and he'd be desperately waiting for a yellow flag lap now, so he can get into the pits, not only do the compulsory tyre change, but also get this bodywork out of the way.
I don't think he's aware of any bodywork rubbing actually at this stage, because with the likelihood of no yellows to come, there's nothing really wrong with heading to the pits and leading the fast guys into there at the moment.
Certainly got a good whack from Walter Giles. You can see he left his signature on the side of the car there.
Then again, I've got a feeling someone left theirs on Walter's early in the day as well. So Grice continues to lead this one as they lead lap number 19. Giles still continues in the battle here. Third and fourth.
George Elliott some 3.5 seconds down on Alan Grice. This is the battle for third and fourth, as Mike said, from 4.5 seconds behind Alan Grice. And I guess, Alan, the longer they get caught up in this little duel, they're going to keep letting Grice get further away.
Money in the bank for Grice, yep.
20 laps down now, 30 to go.
Let's check out how they're running on the track at the moment. Alan Grice, your race leader in the Valvoline Pontiac over George Elliott. Third is Ian Thomas there, followed by Walter Giles, and Robin Best rounds out the 5. Don't go away. We'll be back for the concluding stages. 23 laps remain. This scrap continues between Walter Giles carrying the DuPont Centauri race cam, and just ahead of him is, of course, Ian Thomas of Cairns in northern Queensland. And they have been at it. Third and fourth, and he works to the high side, so Elliott obviously is thinking about going to the pits. Ian Thomas rather. Heads in. He heads down pit road to make the first of the compulsory stops.
Well, I don't think this will really disadvantage him that much, provided there isn't a yellow later in the race, Mike. But I think he just had enough of that tire burning away and smoking him to death. And it looks like nothing more than tires.
There's the yellow flag.
What a pity.
Car 44, Adam Pay gets it loose.
That's bad luck for
But
Thomas.
they may not stop the race because he is down on the pit apron now. There's the yellow flag.
Well, I think they were trigger hot with that one because he caught it again and heads along the back. Now, Ian Thomas finds himself here. That is the cruel luck of this mandatory pit stop. Everyone will be able to come in shortly.
That really is the lottery system, and
as it turned out, they weren't getting a stop fast enough that would have lit up pit lane with the neon signs.
All trying to find their pit bays. Grice going in and the pace car staying out there. About half distance in this opening round of the Australian NASCAR Championship from Calder Park. The Frank Midgley crew already on the scene with Alan Grice, the Valvoline Pontiac, changing the outside tyres.
Mandatory to use a floor jack. These fellows can only get the car up with that jack handler, unlike the cars we have at Bathurst, where the car goes up on 4 pogo sticks, controlled on board by air. It's quite a handful to get a 1,600-pound car up there, but fairly efficiently executed there by the Grice crew.
It was a pretty quick stop too, Alan. They were able to get in and out, miss the pace car and not go down a lap, which is something Ian Thomas was unable to do. Car number 23, who pitted only a lap before the yellow came out. So Grice at number 09, finding the car along the back straight. All of them have just about been in and out. Long stop there for Giles and the 91 car. And the pace car leading them around between turns 3 and 4.
Well, this is a tricky rule, but everybody.
And the pace car's gone off into the pits, so the race will resume. Coming across the line, and Ian Thomas in 23 gets away smartly. Elliott's in there as well. Now, with a lot of ground to make up, Alan Grice, in this, if he is in fact gone back 1 lap, I would think not. He would be leading after 29 laps on the same lap as George Elliott and Terry Byers, also John Laws, Max Dumsney, and Walter Giles. Robin Best, Ian Thomas, Neville Lance and Barry Blake, unfortunately going down a lap. So Grice has been able to do that pit stop and maintain his lead. Good work on Frank Midgley and his team's behalf.
George Elliott 13 seconds now behind. 25-second gap back to Terry Byers. And Terry Byers has done a tremendous job finding his way back from that last position on the grid start. So the great campaigner of NASCAR, Terry Byers, moves up to 3rd position behind George Elliott and Alan Grice as the race resumes. Tyre stops, compulsory tyre stops at least, out of the way. So Alan Grice now will be trying to get a nice clean race, hold station, maintain that buffer and bring it home.
We'll certainly be watching the horizon for any smoke screens, anybody kissing the wall, because his job now is to bring it home, and he can be as creative as he wants for lap times, but he certainly has to watch somebody else's indiscretion.
Well, that break, 12 seconds, Alan Grice over George Elliott, then Terry Byers, John Laws, Max Dumsney and Walter Giles. They're on the same lap. That's positions 1 through 6. As I mentioned before, Robin Best, Thomas, Lance and Mead are down a lap, and they are holding positions 7 through 10.
Elliott to Byers, that's 2nd and 3rd. There's about 6.5 seconds, so we'll see if Terry Byers can close the gap on George Elliott.
Grice timed that pit stop nicely, and that's not luck. That's decision time. That's his judgment. perhaps in conjunction with instructions from the crew chief. But nevertheless, you've got to be able to make that pace car, make that yellow light situation work for you. And Alan Grice has done that here this afternoon.
Alan Grice, a guy with enormous experience, the first Australian ever to qualify for a Winston Cup race in the United States. Took to NASCAR racing like a duck to water, but he's also pretty good in the touring cars, 2 times Bathurst winner, and also won the Christmas NASCAR 500 here in 1989. So he's no stranger to NASCAR racing. He's got himself a great car here. Pontiac, sponsored by Valvoline. Elliott to Byers now 6 seconds, so Byers slowly closing the gap on George Elliott in second place. And there is Terry Byers up the backstroke, 15 laps to go. He's got a lot of work to do. As we said before, he's got a great race setup in this car, and George Elliott would not be out of his reach.
So Terry Byers here, number 26. He's picked up a sponsor in Aristocrat Poker Machines. So he's got a handle on a good sponsor if nothing else.
Well, if you have to punch it, why not? Yes.
So he's done well after problems this morning. Mark has already made mention of that, coming back through the field of Pontiac Grand Prix. The driver from Wollongong, who's been a member of the NASCAR set in Australia since the category first commenced back in 1988.
Well, he's chopping this lead down all the time. He's getting closer and closer to Elliott.
Well, Elliott's got a good car set. He looked good there before the yellow flag, and it's going to have to be a very determined third place here to unseat him.
It's under 5 seconds now. Byers flies down the back straight. All hooked up, 600 horsepower V8s. Gets the car loaded up through the turn, looking nice and smooth as he picks his way through the traffic in search of George Elliott. Yellow flag out again.
Well, here's a decision time for Grice now. If he's not absolutely happy, he may think about sliding in again. But if his car is running strong, he'll just sit out there, let the laps count down for themselves under the pace car, and hold his lead, although the others will close up on him.
Well, we're looking around for...
I see them removing debris on turn number 2, pulling a bumper or something off there that's come adrift from a car. So they closed them up under the pace car, with Alan Grice the race leader on 38 laps completed. 38 of 50 completed for Grice. Still holding that that narrow gap. That's going to close up Ian Thomas and Terry Byers. As we have a look out of the DuPont Centauri race cam coming along the back straight.
You can hear by the revs of the engine on that DuPont car, they're keeping them up there. They're not exactly just backing off and throwing them into overdrive cruise mode. They're keeping that oil warm and keeping themselves on the ball.
8 laps remain in the run to the checkered flag. Pace car about ready to come off the circuit. Drops into pit lane, and Grice gets away smartly, holding that substantial lead as he comes across the line. Grice, the race leader. George Elliott running in second. Terry Byers, up to second. George Elliott back to third, and Max Dumsney. That's the order as they move on to the back straight. They're on the same lap. Byers starting out and around in the chase after Alan Grice. His car in the second heat has looked particularly strong. There's Grice, the Valvoline machine.
Terry Byers is really flying, pushing his way through the pack.
Well, it's hard to swallow a pace car situation, Mike, but when you're in the lead and you've got it under control, like Grice has, he still should be able to move out and maintain a lead that will be comfortable enough for him.
George Elliott, I believe, is having some mechanical problems. He's dropped right down to the back of the grid.
The man on the charge is Terry Byers, but he's really trailing by about 100 metres, maybe even a little bit more. He's not going to be able to pick that up inside the distance with about 6 laps remaining.
5 laps to go as they cross the start-finish line. So it's Grice, Terry Byers, Max Dumsney, Walter Giles, John Laws, and poor old Georgie Elliott.
Dumsney has been a guy who's done well here today. They blew an engine in the heat race earlier today. They've changed an engine complete in about just over an hour and a quarter.
There is George Elliott.
And he's slowing appreciably on the front straight, the defending NASCAR champion, as Alan Grice comes by the start-finishing line with 4 laps to go. He's leading from Terry Byers, who really is motoring very, very hard indeed. Max Dumsney in third, and the second of the Valvoline cars going down into turn number 1.
This is a great return to form for Grice at the Thunderdome. The Dick Midgley Pontiac Grand Prix, beautifully turned out car running the Valvoline colours. Alan Grice looking very much in control. He's got Terry Byers after him. There's Terry just in that 3 that swept through out of the shot. He's got a lot of work to do.
Well, Byers has been able to pick the cars up in a straight line and really leaving it to the last minute to duck under them into the turns. Here's the black car, the Aristocrat poker machine entry.
3 laps to go.
He comes along the back straight trying to catch Ian Thomas, who's trying to catch Robert Best, and they're all trying to catch Alan Grice. That's the order. Turn number 4.
Terry's not mucking about here. He wants to push these guys out of the way and get on after Alan Grice. 2 laps to go as Grice comes through the tri-oval. Terry Byers trying everything he knows. They're being fairly well matched for pace here.
Well, not too much between these 3 cars. 3 old heads at the NASCAR racing game. They move on to the back straight. Grice is clear, out by about 5 or 6 car lengths going down the back straight. Byers still in second. Walter Giles to third. Max Dumsney to fourth. So Giles has been a bit of a mover here too. He's been able to get by Max Dumsney. So a good day here. The white flag out. 1 lap to go for Alan Grice. He takes it across the line down into turn number 1 as Terry Byers still charging after Alan Grice.
Well, on this Grice, he drops this thing against a wall. There's nothing Terry's going to be able to do about it.
That is most unlikely, let me tell you. The number 09 machine of Alan Grice, the Frank Midgley Pontiac, comes down the back straight. The Valvoline sponsored car into turn number 4. Terry Byers still charging after them on the low side. But the checkered flag is at the ready for Alan Grice, who opened season 92-93 in the NASCAR Championship pursuit. He wins today at Calder Park. Terry Byers picks up second spot, and Walter Giles in the DuPont Centauri car finishes a very creditable third. That's them across the line. Grice confirmed as the winner here today. Terry Byers second, Walter Giles third, Max Dumsney a good ride for fourth, and John Laws rounds out the top 5.
Welcome back to Calder Park, and the winner of the first round of the 92-93 NASCAR series is Alan Grice. Alan, congratulations. It's a great way to start the new year.
Yeah, thank you. We were hoping to get a second or a third and get some points on the board because we're chasing the championship this year for the first time. But there's no question that the motor car was clearly the best car. It's Dick Midgley's car. I'm driving his car this year, and it's his Valvoline car. And it's a car that you could obviously see on television. I could put it high or low. I could change my mind in the middle of a corner. A great package.
It wasn't quite what you wanted in the first heat, but the second heat you really came out and stamped your authority.
Yeah, well, Dick said if they're going to mess us around with funny decisions, why don't we win by a lap? We didn't quite do that.
Great way to start. You said it's the first time you've chased it for a season. Obviously big goals.
Yes, previously I've only picked races and gone here and there, but this time Dick wants to win a national championship, and we've chosen this one. What a better one to win.
Alan Grice, congratulations.
Thank you.
We're preparing for the Holden Wides HQ Kingswood Pursuit Race. Just on 44 starters in this. We'll take a look at the way the top 10 line up for you today. Paul Fordham is on pole position in the Valvoline Holden, 36.57. Ahead of Fiona McDonald. Watch her this afternoon. She's quite a gal round here. Tony Malley in the HQ starts out of position number 3. John Spencer out of 4, and Paul King out of position number 5. Out of position number 6, it's Dean Wanless. From 7, Rod Dawson. Out of position number 8 is, of course, Tim de Ombrain, and out of 9 it's Robin Keatley. Rounding out the top 10 is John Rodder. Not too much between them in qualifying yesterday. These were the boys that were able to sneak in a bit of qualifying between the showers. Okay, coming off turn number 4, 20 laps the distance, and it'll be Paul Fordham to lead them in with Fiona McDonald alongside. And as they come down to take the green, spectators to their feet. Fiona McDonald works the outside as the race leader Paul Fordham down into turn number 1. Now Fiona's going to get shuffled here. She's caught on the outside. Whole group of cars trying to get up here on the inside. If anything's going to happen, it usually does in the first lap or 2 laps of a race like this. 44 starters, 20 laps. And the race leader is Paul Fordham going down the back straight, but it's getting very tight here.
3 wide on an opening lap's not a smart move. This is a track that lends itself to 2 wide at best, but these fellows that are getting 3 wide are asking for it.
certainly in the turns, they can do most of their passing on the tri-oval, as they call it, down through the start-finishing line here. But our race leader, Paul Fordham, finds himself under siege now as he works turn number 2 and on the back straight. And here is the charge of the Light Brigade. Paul Fordham in the Valvoline HQ, leading them down into turn number 3.
So Mick Webb in car 9 moves up into 3rd position, right behind Paul King. These cars very evenly matched, running out wide, jostling for positions in these important opening laps of this 20-lap encounter. Just a sweep under our camera on the main straight. HQ holds 202 cubic inch, about 3.3 litre.
Paul King gets off the shuffle as Mick Webb gets in behind Fordham. They work turn number 2 now and the back straight. So the mover there was Webb up the inside. There was a gap there. He took it, and now he's working away on the inside of the race leader.
So Mick Webb getting serious there, tucking onto the back of Paul Fordham's car into turn 1. Followed him all the way out of the chute of turn 2. He's held him on the straight. And this will be the chance to make his move. He can pick up the draft as they come onto the tri-oval.
Well, Fordham goes back to the inside. He's going to make them all work the high side of him.
John Wood, car 47, gets it sideways, but he's managed to stay out of trouble and away from the pit entry lane. Meanwhile, back at the front, Mick Webb.
He's very aggressive here. He's been working on the back bumper here of Fordham, giving him some Larry Dooley as they work off turn 2 and the back straight again.
You have to stay with it. If you're going to get by anybody on a circuit like this, you've got to be right in that draft. You've got to be able to ease off on your own engine, take advantage of the wind that the fellow in front is blocking for you, and then slingshot yourself out. But I would say you almost have to be on the fellow's back bumper bar to pull that off here.
Robin Keatley moving up smartly into 3rd now. He's a very strong performer in the HQ class. So he's going to put plenty of pressure on Webb. Webb got to Fordham, has been unable to do anything with him. Now Webb finds himself out wide against the wall. See if Keatley moves up here on the inside.
Well, he lost it there on that last corner and had a little bit of wiggle up, oversteer, and just enough for the leader to get another car length ahead. In fact, even the 3rd place man is harassing car 9 at the moment.
Mick Webb just shaved a coat of paint off the edge of the concrete wall as they came on the tri-oval once again. There's another one in trouble.
Oops.
He's backing.
Gets out of harm's way.
Air brake goes up with the boot lid.
There's another
front straight, another
It's all
one.
broken loose. The yellow lights are on.
77 around sideways. That's John Shepherd. But he's been able to pick it up. 44.
44's in distress as well. Hayden Ivers, car 20, Shane Houlihan. And they've all come to grief fairly early in the 20-lap HQ screamer.
Pace car about ready to come off the circuit. They're working lap number 12 of the 20-lapper here. Lap 12 of 20. Pace car about to duck down the pit lane, and that'll leave Paul Fordham to lead away, Keatley and Mick Webb, and they're all pulling out of the draft now as they come across the line. So Fordham over Robin Keatley. Mick Webb is the next one up on the inside, and 35 making a run at them as they head down to the right-hander. Fordham has been able to get a bit of a break though. They're 3 and 4 wide back behind them though. Turn number 2 now onto the back straight, like a fighter squadron coming down through here. Side by side in rows. There's about 6 rows there. Number 50 trying to get the split between them.
I can't tell the Messerschmitts from the Spitfires.
They can't. Look at this
How
group.
close do you like it? It's amazing, isn't it?
Fantastic stuff as they come across the line. Paul Fordham, the Valvoline car, still leading from Robin Keatley. Mick Webb is the next one.
Well, Fordham got a nice punch with the pace car. Obviously, the fellow right at the very front can judge that a little bit better. And he did. He got a superb launch, but now having to push all the air out front. The 2nd and 3rd place guys, even 4th place, is nicely in that tow. It would be anybody's race amongst those 4 cars from my estimation.
John Spencer, the yellow car, running back there in 4th, but nothing between them, as Alan said. They come off turn 4, all trying to get back into line as they come across the strike with about 7 laps remaining now. Fordham just there. Keatley to the outside of him trying to make a move. Webb now closes it up on the inside. If he can just squeeze through there on the inside of Keatley. and Spencer right behind them as they come down the back straight.
I guess in this situation, John Spencer's pretty well placed, Alan. He's sitting at the back of that big aerodynamic train in front of him.
He's got the best of it, but not exactly capitalizing on it. Here's where you also still have to have a strong engine to take advantage of a draft. It's not as if it's just an automatic payout. You've got to play.
Oh, here we go. Car
Back
17.
up the racetrack, and they're all trying to miss, and they do.
Paul King locks them up. Someone else involved there. I think it's car 67. Simon Whittick.
I think he'll be able to catch it. They've got one trying to get out of Pookie Hollow there. Number 17, see if he can get some traction on the asphalt. He's been able to do that.
We've avoided the yellow flags as well, so the race continues.
Great scrap, and it continues along the back straight with Paul Fordham.
Look at Mick Webb, dives down the inside.
So Webb has got a sniff of second here. Robin Keatley running in third, and John Spencer in fourth place. That's the order.
Well, a situation like this is when you really want to know your car, you want to know your abilities, and just take advantage of anybody else's little oopses, and there's a few of them happening out there at the moment.
There's another one. Car 13.
Well, JFK is hit the dust there, number 13.
3 laps on the run to the checkered flag.
Butterfly time for sure, but knowledgeable driver. Fordham's tasted victory here before. He should be able to hold it off, but he can't make a mistake.
John Spencer getting pushed wide up there, loses a bit of speed, so he drops off the back of Keatley's car, and jumping on the back of them is Tim Dombrain as they come across the line. This is going to be desperate stuff. Mick Webb right on the hammer of Fordham as they swing into turn 1. Might be a little bit of biff and barge here.
Now's the time not to jump out of the draft. He'd be better off sitting in behind Fordham here, and if he's got anything left, maybe the back straight the final next time around. He can't really get caught on the high side here of Fordham because he'll have 3 beneath him.
Well, they certainly seem to have equally powered cars, and
yep. Well, we're coming up to the white flag lap. This is the last one now. So if Mick Webb's going to make his move, he probably was sussing it out that time around. But Fordham seems to have a fair bit of a speed strength on the main straight, Alan.
He's got the speed strength, and he's holding it very nicely on the banks. He's not wiggling around at all, and it must be quite unnerving to have the other car right on his bumper bar like that. But I think he's doing an excellent job under pressure.
So Mick Webb goes a little bit deeper under brakes, jumps up on the bumper of Fordham's car. Fordham gets a little bit out of shape.
I think he's trying to hug it back down to the inside, make them go by him on the outside. Spectators stand checkered flag at the ready as they come across the line. Narrowly, it'll be Fordham over Webb, Keatley, then followed by car number 35, John Spencer, and Ombrain finishing back in the 5th spot. Now, I think that was a well-judged race on Paul Fordham's part. He was able to dictate the paces. We check them out on our 7 Sport race score. Paul Fordham, the winner in the Valvoline Holden. 2nd was Mick Webb. 3rd, Robin Keatley. 4th, John Spencer. And Tim Ombrain finishes in the top 5. Back at Calder, just a moment. Back here at Calder Park Thunderdome, we're preparing for a little V8 warfare with the AUSCARs before a huge crowd here today, considering the appalling weather conditions earlier this morning. We've got the cars out for the final of the AUSCARs today, 50 laps the distance. This is their 2nd run for the day. There were some incidents in the earlier heat this morning, unbelievably so, with young Rodney Jane hitting the wall, as you can see, head on and then slicing on down the track, missing cars on the way through. Very lucky boy to step out of that car. That was the only major incident in the race. A little later on, though, Terry Sawyer and also car number 11, Richard Howe, got around sideways. There's Terry Sawyer in the number 43 car coming down the bank. That was about it. Marshall J. Brewer went on to win that event, but now we have the final. Let's take a look at how they line up. Marshall J. Brewer, through winning the earlier heat, starts on pole. Brad Jones in 2nd spot. From 3, it's John Faulkner in the Commodore. Gary Rogers, the EB Falcon, out of 4. 5, it's Grant Monday in the Holden Commodore. Position number 6 for the 2nd heat today, Terry Wyhoon in the Commodore from 7, 03 Peter Fitzgerald. Owen Davies starts out of position 8 in 88. Bruce Williams in car number 9 from 9, and Mark Seaton, car number 23 from position number 10. That's the order, with Bradley Jones in the Castrol Commodore on the outside of the front row, and Marshall Brewer in car number 69, the pole sitter, the man who won, Brad Jones, there in the cockpit. It's going to be a tough race, Brad.
You're telling me, Mike. I thought the last one was tough. This one's for the prize money, so I should imagine it's going to be pretty full on.
Well, Marshall Brewer had the wood on you just a little in the first leg this morning. What's the idea of this one? You've got to get to the front pretty quickly.
Well, this is a brand new car, and we hadn't, because of the weather, we haven't had a long run with it. And the car, when the tyres get hot, understeers too much, and as well as that, we ran out of brakes. So we've had a pad change, and we've made a drastic change to the front of the car, so it'll be real good or real bad.
Come on, Brad, you had your Wheaties this morning. You can handle it. Just turn the steering wheel a little bit tighter in the middle of the bank.
The thing's got that much understeer. I thought I was going to go infield there a couple of times, but anyway.
All right, son, get back to it. We'll follow your progress. Brad Jones. On the outside of the front row, Marshall J. Brewer, take nothing away from him. Car number 69, he was running rock solid in the opening heat today. Keeping in mind that all these cars have to make a mandatory pit stop within the 50 laps. They cannot do it in the opening 5 circuits. So really, it is a game of guess and a game of chess. Coming around the 4th turn, all up in rows of 2, pace car about ready to pull off and go into the pit. So the green flag is at the ready. What will be the tactics of Jones? Has he got enough acceleration here to get to the front? They are line astern as they come down. Spectators giving them a good farewell. 50 laps. Marshall J. Brewer gets away smartly from Brad Jones. John Faulkner on the inside. And Gary Rogers out very smartly in the EB Falcon on the outside, the Valvoline entry. He has Terry Wyhoon right behind him. Next is Ken James in the Adjib entry as they work the back straight. And Jones trying to tuck in the draft now of Marshall J. Brewer as they come howling along the back straight and peel off like a fighter squadron into turn number 3.
Well, Brewer got a great start. If there's anything that could be called slightly jumping the start, he had his foot down just momentarily before Brad got into it, and it served him well to get into turn 1 first.
Look at this, Brewer, and here comes John Faulkner straight down on the inside. Now, Brad Jones has caught himself one out and offline, and that has given Faulkner the inside run down the back straight as he works away at Marshall Brewer. And Jones desperately trying to get down to the inside of Brewer as well. And here he comes, puts the nose through. Terry Wyhoon follows him through that gap, and Gary Rogers in there. Real race going here as they come across the line for the completion of the 2nd lap.
It's Commodore, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gary Rogers moves up with the EB Falcon, has quicked this forward, and car 50 Grant Monday. That's the top 5. As they come into turn 1, beginning of this absorbing 50-lap contest. Brad Jones, boy, haven't the tables turned for him in the last 12 months. A lot of very competitive cars out there matching him for race speed, almost toppling him for qualifying time, and he's going to work very hard today.
Well, as Brad mentioned, he had to do a lot of changing there in between heats, and the last thing any driver likes to have to do is change and guess and wonder what's happening.
Well, Marshall Brewer's in all sorts of trouble there. He slipped right back. He's back with Grant Monday. I don't know what happened. He seemed to pick up his pace as he came past the tri-oval that time, but he's dropped 5 positions in the distance of about 3/4 of a lap.
Well, that'd have to be engine. He might have been a bit too exuberant on that opening lap, and he's hurt something in the engine, and it's just slowly pegging him back.
Now, significantly here, Gary Rogers, as we look at Peter Fitzgerald, closing up on the back of Marshall Brewer. Marshall's got some sort of problem.
They are deceptively fast through the turns here at Calder Park Thunderdome. John Faulkner in the better Commodore, and it certainly seems to be that way today, leads them into turn number 1. Right behind him is Bradley Jones, the Castrol Commodore, Gary Rogers and the Falcon EB. And then they've opened up a fairly handsome gap now over Terry Wyhoon, Grant Monday, and then, of course, Marshall Brewer and Peter Fitzgerald. But John Faulkner, car number 44.
This is a great run from Gary Rogers, half a second behind Brad in qualifying as we go inside the Castrol Commodore Castrol race cam. As Jones has a look down the inside of John Faulkner, hard under brakes as they swing into the banking of turn 1. Jones sneaks underneath him, but John Faulkner will not let him go without a fight. Meanwhile, Gary Rogers has taken advantage of that little manoeuvre to climb up onto the back of Faulkner. It's 1, 2, 3, Holden forward.
Well, that was a cheeky move. Brad did a nice number there, and John Faulkner didn't appear to fight back, and Brad's taken advantage of it and zipped out another car length on him.
Here's Gary Rogers, the Falcon now, starting to make a run on the inside of the Commodore. This is 3rd for 2nd, and he takes him.
This is a great charge from Gary Rogers. Half a second slower in qualifying, and all of a sudden he's matching the race pace of these 2 great drivers, Faulkner and Brad Jones. But Gary Rogers has an enormous amount of experience.
Well,
and John Faulkner Standing behind the bumper, big surge of speed.
Almost as if he went down to light up a cigarette or something, but I guess he wouldn't be doing that around here.
It almost looked like he went to sleep. John Faulkner took advantage of the opportunity, and Gary Rogers gets pushed back to third in one fell swoop. So the Ford goes back to third position. Terry Wyhoon on his hammer. And Grant Munday in car 50 rounds out the 5. So Brad Jones, as you can see by that wide shot, has spread eagled the field for a while. Opened up about a 60 or 70 metre gap on John Faulkner. And here comes Terry Wyhoon down the inside of Gary Rogers. Turning tables. Falcon was showing an enormous amount of speed in the opening laps, and now Terry Wyhoon picks up Rogers as well.
What we don't see, Mark, is how some of these fellows come off turns 1 and 2, particularly 2. They get an extra fast run down the back straight, and then all of a sudden they are on the leaders' bumper bars and passing them like they're standing still.
Well, Gary must have a problem here. They're picking him off one by one each lap. Grant Munday sneaks under the Falcon as well. So it's Jones, Faulkner, Terry Wyhoon, and Gary Rogers. Marshall Brewer has regathered his speed and moves up to 5th position.
They come off turn number 4. Bradley Jones, the Castrol Commodore, leads this high-speed dress parade across the line. Second held by John Faulkner. 3 car lengths back to Terry Wyhoon over Grant Munday. And Marshall Brewer coming back through the pack as Peter Fitzgerald here in the Goodyear Commodore also ducks down beneath Brewer to pick up 1 spot on the exit to turn number 2.
Well, Rogers obviously has a problem. He couldn't show that amount of speed in the opening laps and just be slipping back this consistently. So Marshall Brewer moves up. There's Peter Fitzgerald, production car king, having his try at AUSCAR. Marshall Brewer slowly falling back into the clutches of the Victorian. 10 laps to go. Oh, sorry, 10 laps down, so we're into the compulsory pit stop phase anywhere from now on. So once again, these guys were looking for a yellow flag situation.
Just to explain that to the viewers, as we follow Brad Jones along the back straight, part of each one of the qualifying rounds for the AUSCAR is a compulsory pit stop. Earlier today, in the opening heat, they jumbled them all up. The leaders went to the pits, and it took them a long time to haul in the tail enders. Marshall Brewer successful in that. And almost the same situation before the pit stops. Brad Jones was leading, John Faulkner, Terry Wyhoon, as they come down the back straight, and Gary Rogers going into the pits. So Rogers has elected to go to the pits early in the 35 Valvoline car. He's in there changing outside wheels. That's all they have to do, change the outside wheels and tyres, and they're ready to go back in. So they'll drop a lap, but everyone does the same.
He may have been unhappy with his handling, Mike, and said, look, I want to get in here and get this quick modification while I'm in, bonnet up, maybe some front row bar adjustments while they're at it. But normally, I would think Brad Jones will be saying, I'm staying out here until I see a yellow. And the moment that yellow hits, I'm coming in.
Yes, that'd be probably the wise decision. Here's Jones.
Just over a second lead on John Faulkner. Terry Wyhoon hanging into 3rd position. Grant Munday 4th. And Marshall Brewer climbing back to round out the 5. So Gary Rogers drops out of the battle quite suddenly. And Brad Jones showing a lot of race speed. John Faulkner certainly a match for him throughout qualifying. And Heat 1 today with Bradley Jones showing great speed, at least 100 metres on him as they head down the back straight. There's Terry Wyhoon in 3rd place.
Yes, he's been the achiever here today, and problems still persist. The Ford Falcon crew here, the Valvoline crew on Gary Rogers' car.
And that's more than a handling problem. Yep. The roll bar is not generally connected to the valve covers.
So sweep into turn 1 once again. John Faulkner 2nd. Terry Wyhoon. Good performance from Wyhoon. Not a big budget effort. Very enthusiastic privateer. Did well here in the final round of the championship 91-92, and has come out quite strong in the opening for this season.
And Faulkner, in fact, earlier today was able to beat the Jones crew in the pit stop. So Brad probably does need a couple of seconds break over the field if they're going to do identical stops this time around. There's Terry Wyhoon making inroads on John Faulkner at the moment. Wyhoon in the yellow, and
Marshall Brewer has also come into the pits while this action's going on.
Some of the drivers electing to try and get their stops done early, just in case there isn't a yellow flag and someone's got to head to the pits with 3 or 4 laps to go.
Well, I guess they'd be hedging their bets. There's Gary Rogers He's out of the car, so that's obviously the end of the day for the EB Falcon, which is a great shame. This car showing a lot of speed, still in its development phase. And Gary doing some great work out there in the opening laps of this race. Marshall Brewer, meanwhile, rejoins the race as we follow Brad Jones, the man who's setting the pace here.
Look, there's one heading on down pit road.
Car 12.
12 coming in.
Archie Robinson.
So Archie Robinson, beautifully turned out car, comes in for his mandatory pit stop.
Well, the field is fairly strung out, Mike, and as such, not too much of a chance of people getting tangled up. And really, Brad is going to have to start thinking about when does he want to come in. It's the likelihood of a yellow is starting to disappear a bit.
I think you're right there, Alan. I think Marshall may have been hedging his bets. There weren't a lot of accidents happening today. So the likelihood of a yellow flag incident, as you say, could have minimalised, and it may work in his favour if Brad's going to have to go in to a pit stop on a green flag lap.
Well, nothing to suggest an incident or a problem on the circuit at the moment as Brad Jones, in lap number 18, leads this race along the back straight. Here's Jones, and there's second place driver John Faulkner, car number 46, the better Commodore.
Well, there's only about 150 metres in this, just over 2 seconds.
Wyhoon, nothing in this scrap for second. Jones out clearly, but it's Faulkner, Wyhoon and Grant Munday, the second, third and fourth. That's the order. Now, Wyhoon is very, very quick through the turns, but seems to lose out just a little in power on the straights. Now they'll come rumbling into turn number 3 now. Wyhoon's car seems to stick that much better in the turns, as you can see. Now the exit.
Terry Wyhoon, oh, there we are. One in trouble.
This might be all they need for the flag.
If he stops out there, we'll have the yellows out very quickly. Yeah.
That's all we need for the mandatory stops now.
This is what Bradley Jones will be looking for.
Now they'll have to pick the pace car up and do one lap under the pace car until the pit lane is open.
There is the yellow, 30 laps to go.
Perfect timing. Not so much perfect timing, but perfect positioning.
It certainly is. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Brad Jones at this stage of the race leads from John Faulkner. Third is Terry Wyhoon. Grant Munday is fourth. Peter Fitzgerald is fifth. The pace car is out. We'll be back in a moment. Back at Calder Park Thunderdome, pace car still out there, but here come the leaders. The charge into the pits to complete their mandatory stop. Brad Jones, the race leader. John Faulkner, who runs in second spot. Terry Wyhoon in third. Grant Munday in fourth. They are all headed for the pits. Here's Jones pulling up. About to change the tyres. Jack the side of the car up. There's Faulkner's crew. They're already at it. Not too much between the two of them.
Marshall Brewer's rejoined. He's come back into the pits as well, so he must have an additional problem. Oh, there's been a collision down the end of pit lane. Marshall Brewer trying to get out. Meanwhile, Brad Jones and John Faulkner, these are the guys, the main protagonists in this competition.
Jones Faulkner's crew pretty on the left front. Yeah. Something, car still in the air. They're fooling around with the left front.
Pace car's half the way down back straight.
This is the last thing you want.
This is nail-biting stuff, but Bradley, everything under control. He gets back out. Now he's going to really hammer it. The lights are still on the pace car, so we won't have...
Well, fortunately, that's not going to affect him too greatly. He'll be able to pick up what he's lost in the pits behind Marshall Brewer. But he's not going to be able to pick up John Faulkner. There's Bradley trying to pick it up behind the pace car at the moment. They've all just about completed their stops.
Yeah, she lose the psychological edge there. Mikey wanted to be out in front again, maintain his lead, make the others worry about how they were going to get by him. Now he's got the frustration of knowing he's got to work his way by, and that's a lot harder, obviously.
So John Faulkner now takes over the lead in the race. Brad Jones is up to second. Bradley, that looked like a fairly long pit stop.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was, yeah. Well, what can I say? We were beaten in the pits today. Hopefully I can make it back up on the track.
The car looks pretty strong from where we're watching. How's it from where you are?
Well, it's a lot better than it was in the first race. I can actually stop it before I get to the turn, so that's a big plus. The car seems to be handling nicely. Kim just told me the tyre wear was good, and now all I've got to do is nail a couple of these cars in front of me.
The way you pulled away in those opening laps, Brad, looks like you have a bit of a race speed advantage over John Faulkner.
No, I think you might find he's laying down a little bit, though. I didn't want to go too fast at the start, but my plan was simple. I was going to go hard right out of the box, and if there wasn't a yellow, I figured I had it. So there was a yellow.
Okay, we'll let you get back and concentrate. Thanks, Bradley.
Talk to you later.
They're under formation at the moment and will take the green flag the next time around. Now, cars that are down a lap hang to the inside. The fast lane for the restart is the outside. There you can see John Faulkner with Brad Jones, the Castrol Commodore, right behind him. Grant Munday moves up into third. This is so important to get the whole shot here. The pace car will pull off the circuit in the next turn. Beautifully turned out Ford pace cars here at Thunderdome. And here is the pace car ready to leave from the circuit, which it does. And now it is time to get it down. John Faulkner jumps up on the outside. There's Brad Jones and the Castrol Commodore going after him. Grant Munday on the outside of Gary Rogers. He goes down a lap or so as they sweep down into the first turn, with Jones now dialing right in, getting in the draft now. John Faulkner, has he got some speed in reserve? Jones gets to the inside as they come along the back straight and passes John Faulkner as they zip up into turn number 3. So Jones back to the lead in the Castrol Commodore. Faulkner in second, and Grant Munday is in third.
Well, Brad Jones is showing that he wants that lead. He doesn't feel comfortable in second spot. He's not worried about what the others have got. He wants his car flat to the floor and get some of that real estate behind him, and he's doing that nicely.
Just look at a little bit of the area he pulls out on John Faulkner here. Faulkner being able to match him through qualifying, but there's a bit of extra speed on board. Marshall Brewer has looked down the inside, but Marshall's a lap down.
Oof, that was close.
Gives a brush at the rear quarter panel on Faulkner's Commodore. He wouldn't like that, particularly with a lap car. So Faulkner tries to put a bit of air between himself and Marshall Brewer. Marshall, meanwhile, is trying to get himself unlapped as they pick their way through these slower cars in the opening laps following the yellow flag restart.
And he's scrapping here for second and third. It's just money in the bank for Brad Jones. Always go just that tad slower when you're trying to fend off somebody else. And here's third spot now for Faulkner.
Faulkner's been pushed wide. Terry Wyhoon comes through on the inside as well. And down the inside comes Grant Munday, 3 abreast. Grant Munday's got great positioning here.
Great racing here today at Calder Park Thunderdome, being watched by a huge and appreciative crowd.
Terry Wyhoon's doing a great job here. He blew his own engine on Friday and ended up having to borrow an engine from Rodney Jane's old Commodore VL. Well, it's certainly done pretty well. And stuck it in here. He qualified 5th. And he's showing a lot of good race speed here.
I sometimes think, Mark, the old parts are better than the new ones. And going on performances at Bathurst last week, I'm becoming a real advocate of that feeling.
Now here's the mover in the pack, Bruce Williams, in the Bendix green and white Commodore.
And he's moving up on the tail now, Peter Fitzgerald. They're both hauling in John Faulkner.
This is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Good run for Fitzy too, the new Commodore VP. He's only had a couple of outings in AUSCAR since he first debuted in the series last season, but coming to grips with AUSCAR quite well. Nicely built car, immaculately presented, running in the Goodyear colours. And this is quite a consistent run from Fitzy today.
This is what close racing is all about. You can see a few of the bumps there along the back straight. As they,
Bruce Williams.
Take it easy, mate.
Just goes down on the pit apron. That's hairy stuff.
Wasn't bad, he caught it.
Well, that's Flip City. That's very much an edge there on the bottom lane, which is flat. And then when you flip up onto the start of the banking, he won't do that too many times.
It has a habit of unsteadying the car no end. But he was able to survive that one. He'd gone in way too deep and then had to try and brush a lot of it off. Or otherwise he'd been straight through the side door of Peter Fitzgerald. In the meantime, Fitzgerald closes on John Faulkner. This is the scrap, 4th and 5th. Faulkner with Fitzgerald closing, gets in the draft, down through the tri-oval. Looks towards the inside. There's not much room to play with there. And all the time, car number 9 is making up ground again.
Yes, this is the kind of run that you love to have in front. On the radio, his team will be telling him what kind of a gap he's got, and anything that he's got just in reserve that he can ease off a little bit and not hurt his lap times too much. That's how you win races, at the slowest possible speed, not the fastest possible speed.
Look at Bruce Williams here. After getting the car pretty unsteady 2 laps ago, he's had to make up all that ground again. Dives down on the inside, takes Fitzgerald. The car really does stick when he gets it in there on the inside. Now he has to work away at Faulkner going down the back straight. See what he can do. His forte is obviously catching them at the end of the straight and just diving to the low side.
Well, let's hope his ambitions aren't mixed up with his abilities with the moves like that, but he's certainly handling it well at this stage.
Here he goes again down the inside, drives it in deep, drives it in hard. Will it stick? Yes, it does.
Wow. He's on a real charge. Bruce Williams, former AUSCAR Rookie of the Year, first competed in an ex-Brad Jones Commodore VL. As said, won that very exciting race in the last race of last season.
There's Bradley Jones, the Castrol Commodore, riding it hard down the back straight. 9 laps remaining in this opening round of the Goodyear AUSCAR Championship. Brad Jones, defending champion, 3-time winner of the title. And the Castrol Commodore, after some problems earlier today, seems to be running smoothly.
Is it clear enough?
So Brad Jones heads into the bottom corner. Can you hear us, Brad?
Yeah, hi, Mike.
That looks pretty good. You got a good break.
Feels pretty nice.
Does it feel better than it did in the opening heat?
Oh, much better. The change of skimming the guys did to the car certainly made a lot of difference, and even though I can feel the tyres going off, it's still stronger than the rest. So, yeah, we're pretty happy with our Castrol Commodore today.
You've certainly left John Faulkner behind, Brad.
Well, I was expecting him to sort of run along a bit towards the end of this race, but maybe he's got a bit of a problem. But they didn't change their car between the heats, so who knows?
All right, thanks for the chat. We might see you in victory lane.
Thanks, Mike.
Brad Jones, not really a time to have a go and hearty with the drive, because the element of concentration here is unbelievable, and the G-forces, Alan, you could explain, having driven at Daytona.
Well, it starts fooling around with your eyeballs as much as anything, Mike. You get disorientated with the bank coming up, and truly you do have to concentrate, and certainly in the case of the overseas speedways where the inclination is much higher and the straightaway speeds are much stronger, it is quite frightening to hit the banks. But here at Calder, no mean feat to keep these cars moving well, and I would like to compliment Brad Jones, the way he's floating his car through the corners, and this is a key to good driving. He's not hurting and scrubbing his tires. He's just letting the car float through up there. It may look as if he's getting too close or cheeky with the wall, but it's not. He's letting the G-forces, the centrifugal forces, work for him instead of against him. And he's truly just floating this car around here this afternoon.
So it's basically the string principle.
Absolutely, yes.
Bradley heads off on the penultimate lap. It's 1.8 kilometre circuit. And Bradley really has strutted them in heat 2. Had some brake problems in the earlier heat. But Kim and Brad have a really good relationship as far as setting the car up. They came into the pits at the break between the 2 heats, did some adjustments to the car, changed the brake pads, and obviously the tweaks that they put on the car in between has made a big difference. Bradley has made this second heat look very easy.
He's taken the white flag with 1 lap to go. So Brad Jones down into turn number 1. Marshall Joe Brewer, who is down a lap on the leaders, will tail him along the back straight. Second still being held by Grant Munday and Terry Wyhoon. But today has been the Brad Jones show at Calder Park Thunderdome. Keeps the car sticking to the low side of the circuit, comes off turn number 4, back through the tri-oval. Checkered flag is already waving as Brad Jones takes it across the line to win this afternoon's opening round of the championship from Grant Munday and Terry Wyhoon, who finishes back there in 3rd spot. And 4th place will go to Bruce Williams over Kenny James. Well done, Brad Jones. We'll check them out for you now on the 7 Sport race score. Brad Jones, winner of the opening round of the AUSCAR Championship. Grant Munday in 2nd place. Terry Wyhoon in 3rd. Bruce Williams 4th, and Kenny James rounds out the 5. And we'll be back at Calder in just a moment. Welcome back to Calder Park Thunderdome. Those black clouds starting to roll in here this afternoon, but fortunately all of the action is just about over. Well, Alan Moffat, I'm sure you'll agree nothing beats car preparation in those stakes. Brad Jones was in front here today.
Yes, he was. He has an immaculate prepared car. He did drive it well, but he may well have won the race here 2 weeks ago with his preparation.
You might be right. Well, I think a delighted Brad Jones, joined in victory lane by Andy Raymond.
And the winner and defending champion from last year, Bradley Jones. Brad, you must be wrapped.
Very happy. After the first heat, I couldn't believe how that one went. We made a fairly drastic change on the pit stop to the car because I didn't think it was capable of winning the second heat, and yeah, it was perfect.
The new VP Commodore, obviously, you are happy with it?
Well, it's a fair bit different to our old car, and it's the first time it's done 50 laps because of the weather down here. So at the moment, I'm very happy. Whenever you win, you're happy.
And the pressure that was on today, being the defending champion, I guess, blew out the window?
Well, I was expecting them to come at me from all corners towards the end of that heat, but it didn't happen, so I'll take them any way I can have them.
So let's take a look at the points table. Brad Jones, the leader after round one, 175. Grant Munday in second spot on 170. Terry Wyhoon third on 165. Bruce Williams on 160 and Ken James 155. Don't go away. We'll be back at Calder Park Thunderdome in just a moment. Back here at Calder Park Thunderdome, and I'm sure you'll agree, Alan Moffat, some of the guys have got some homework to do here before they come back for the Christmas Classic.
Well, fortunately, they got a few weeks to do that, Mike, and let's hope the weather's a little bit more on their side so they can get some testing in. I really do think people are just a bit rusty and they haven't had a chance to put their best foot forward.
Well, the opportunity, obviously, for the Americans to come here for the Christmas Classic, that means everyone has to pick the act up just a notch because they're coming off their complete season. These guys are just starting.
Well, I think it is a match practice, as you've seen, the cricketers, everybody, they have to get into the season, and we shouldn't be too unkind on these fellas here today. It's been a rough week for everybody.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed our coverage. On behalf of Alan Moffat, Mark Oster, Andy Raymond and the team here at Calder Park Thunderdome, we look forward to your company for the Christmas Classic, our next expedition here to Calder Park on Sunday, December 6th. We look forward to your company then. This 7 Sport motor racing presentation was brought to you by Castrol. Oils ain't oils.